Hey. Listen, everyone. Hi, this is Teresa with Teresa Barron. Take a look, real estate brokers. Again, it's Teresa Barron. Did I say that kind of backwards? Sorry. Anyway, it's been a moment. We've been trying to get live here for the last, I want to say, 25, 30 minutes fighting with our server. It's been a pain in the butt. This technology is something. It's just crazy. But anyway, today we are going to do episode 7 on Ask Teresa. And what we're talking about today is projecting your market value. It's, I'm a real estate lady. This is what I do. Been doing it for 24 years. And I'm going to use some case studies to teach you how I took a property that I paid very little money for and projected out a market value. I'm going to tell you how that whole process took place, what happened, and just give you some information, some knowledge, and help you to become a little bit more savvy. So if you are seeing me live right now, I just want you to let me know if you can hear me. And you hear me. Okay, great. I have Aaron here as a moderator. We had to get off of our server. Something. Anyway, let's get to this case study. So projecting market value. I want you to understand that this case study could make you a lot of money. So pay attention and get excited, because that's what we're talking about. Talking about actually buying for the right reasons and being able to project value. Now, I want to tell you about a property that found me. I didn't find it. So it's important to pay attention and to know when there's an opportunity looming in the works. Just kind of pay attention to the whole thing. What's going on in your life, what's going on in the lives of the people that are coming around you. And, it boils down to, for me, it was almost a service situation. So this property in 1991 actually found me. I had a friend, he had a nickname. His nickname was Jocko. And what he did was he actually called me and told me he needed some help because he had a property that was 13 payments behind and going into a foreclosure situation. Usually, if somebody's going into a foreclosure situation and they're 13 payments behind, it's a very difficult resolution. At the time, short sales weren't popular. As a matter of fact, the banks didn't have to do anything like that or negotiate. They really weren't in the spirit of negotiations in 1991. So this guy, he was a maintenance guy for me. He knew me as a real estate person. And it's funny that he knew me that way because I didn't have a license at that point, but I was buying things. I was spending my time and energy picking up property for different reasons. And I guess I might have been talking about it enough for him to understand that I actually was in the mindset of finding value in real estate. So this is what happened. He came to me, met with me, told me that he was 13 months behind, and said, they were taking the property to share of sale the following month. And I'm looking at him like, okay, so what's your payments? How much is your payments? He really wanted me to give him some advice and just tell him what I thought he maybe should do in order to salvage the situation. He told me that the payments were $177 a month, and he just hadn't made any payments in 13 months, and he really just felt like he had messed up. And so what I told him was, I said, look, if you can come up, it seemed like that's not a whole lot of money. What I would do is I would see if I could find 13 family members to give me $177 a piece, and I try to bring it current. He said that wasn't really going to work because he still had the foreclosure costs, and that was another $2,000 to $3,000. So I told him, I said, well, I'm not sure. Maybe you need to find, 10 family members to give you $250, $300 a piece, so you could also take care of the attorney fees and foreclosure fees and so forth and so on. He really needed about $5,500. Well, what's crazy is that he could not find anybody in his family who wanted to invest in saving this property for no reason. They just weren't going to do it. So I told him, I said, this might be, if I'm going to look at it, I will look at it. But if I'm going to look at it, it's got to be something where I can really come back and make some money on it. And it's going to be for profit. So therefore, he can expect that he's not going to get it back for free if he wants it back. And he's going to definitely have to come up with a profit margin for me in the long run. So here's what happened. I was able to convince my mother and myself. We went and borrowed $5,000 and got that payment to the mortgage company. Now, after we did that, we realized that the property was not in his name. So that was like just another added issue. And found out that the property was actually owned by his brother. And at the time, his brother was in Orient Correctional Institute. So he was in prison and could not really sign over any kind of documents. We were able to talk to the warden and actually get the warden to agree to have this gentleman sign over his deed so that he would have an opportunity to come back to somewhere to live when he got out of prison. So all that happened, all that took place, and it all kind of wrapped itself up in that whole, with that whole energy of trying to help somebody. We made a deal with I can hear you, Aaron. Aaron, you better mute yourself. Anyway, so what ultimately ends up happening is we made the deal with Jocko that he could remain in the property. And my deal was if he wanted it back, he had to buy it back at market value. Like when his brother got out of jail and for all this inconvenience and so forth, he'd have to buy it back at market value, whatever that value was. And I knew it wasn't the same value. So we put up the $5,000, and at the end of the day, we only owed about $7,000 on that property. That was the end of, that's all we owed on it. It still had a mortgage payment of $177. Many of you might know that in 1989, anything that was originated before January 1st, 1989, had the opportunity to actually not just, you can just pick up the FHA property, but you could actually get that mortgage transferred into your name without having to do anything like qualify or come up with documentation or whatever. You just had to pay about a $300 fee, come up with whatever payments it was to get it current, and then FHA would transfer that mortgage into your name. And it now, not only did you have the deed, but you also had the mortgage. So that was a good thing, and that's exactly what happened with this case. So my friend, he lived into that property. He lived in that property for another 5 or 6 years. And the deal with me was, I said to him, as long as he paid me $200 a month, and I could make a little bit of profit, it's $25 that I was charging him on top of what the mortgage really was, then I would allow him to stay in the property for that period of time that he wanted to stay until he was able to buy it back or whatever. Let me tell you, I never actually went into the property. I never ever did any work on the property. I never did anything to it except the money. For about 6 years, this all worked out just fine. It worked out where he gave me the money, I paid the mortgage, and I kept $25. If he didn't pay me the mortgage, the deal was he was going to work it off, and the work was worth always 4 or 5 times what the money was. But sometimes that's just what he preferred to do because money was tight. And once again, I still hadn't been in the property. It was 1997 before these things would change. And really what changed was he stopped paying. Well, that's not going to work. He stopped paying, and at that point, I still had a mortgage. And it wasn't a very big mortgage. It was $177 a month. But you cannot live in my property and not pay. That's not working for me. And ultimately, we did an eviction, got him out. And that was the very first time that I stepped foot into this property. Now, when I talk about projecting value, the idea and the mindset for me was, I knew that I was only paying $12,000 for this property. I knew that the property was less than 2 miles from downtown. I knew that we had big corporate things going on right across Livingston Avenue, which was Children's Hospital and that zone. I knew that there was a very good likelihood, since this house looked like the German Village bricks, that German Village and or the folks that started out buying in German Village, there would be a similar set of people that would try to come across Parsons Avenue and start buying in this neighborhood called Swain's Corner. I knew that was a very big possibility. Now, this is 1991 when I made this first purchase, this initial purchase. I also knew that the garage on the property was about 900 square feet, and the house itself was only 1,200 square feet. So we had a second structure on that property that was almost as big as the house itself. And furthermore, I knew that the property was all brick structure and it had a double lot. So to me, there was going to be an immense amount of value no matter what happened with that property. But I wasn't married to it. I wasn't emotionally tied to it. Really, I was just doing a friend a favor and then looking for, if he didn't follow through, what was I going to do with this property? So like I said, it all worked out until 1997. And then everything hit the fan. He stopped paying and I ended up evicting him. One note to anybody who's dealing with tenants. If you have to evict somebody, you only get 1 hour to put them out. This property was so full, it took me 22 people to empty out that property in that 1 hour period of time when the sheriff came and told me I had that much time to empty it out. That's how many people, and I had to pay every single last person to get all that stuff out that property in a timely manner. But back to the story, once I emptied it out, I saw what I had, and it was crazier than crazy. I mean, I'd never walked through it. So I really, I had no real idea of how he was living. You have to make some assumptions if somebody's been living there 6 or 7 years. Number one, I knew he had power and I knew he had, there was a bathroom somewhere in the property, but guess what? Guess what I found out when I went in? The bathroom was completely dismantled. There was no furnace. There were 4 separate furnaces in the lower level basement area, but none of them were connected. The front room was full of bicycle parts, motorcycle parts. The wiring was strung across the house as though it were a construction site. And in the middle of the floor, in a corner, was a spiral staircase taking me to an unfinished space on the second level. I mean, it was unreal. To me, I thought, what in the world did I buy? And then I thought about it for a second. I said, well, we can take this one of two ways. We can say that it was always like this and that this was just what it is. Or we can suppose, because nobody really knows, we can just use our imagination and decide that it was his intent to dismantle the property because he knew I was taking it back upon receiving the notice for eviction. He just probably decided to take everything out of it. And I decided to use the latter as my story. So luckily, because I had the property mortgage and I had complete control over the entire financial situation on the property, I had the most wonderful thing in the world. I had proper property insurance. And at the time, the neighborhood in 1997 was probably worth somewhere around $35,000. It had not really begun to turn yet. It's worth about $35,000, just a structure and a double lot with a 2-car garage. Actually, this was a 3-car garage, but that's about what it was worth, about $35,000. Crazy thing is that when I brought the insurance company in, because the adjuster came in to come visit me, I called them. And when I brought him in, the craziest thing happened. He just wrote a check. It was nothing he could say because he had never seen anything like that. The adjuster wrote the check for the entire value of rebuilding and restructuring this house. And I was like, I just came up. So he gave me a check for $35,000 that was both signed off to, it was written to myself and the mortgage company. And what I had to do is take that check, pay off the mortgage company because I didn't want them in my business. I owed them about $4,000 at that point, or 3 or 4 or something like that. I just sent the check to them and told them to take their money out and send me back the rest. And so for me, it could have been the end of the story at that moment. Really, I could have said, that's it. Like, I'm not concerned about this house. I'm not redoing it. This money's going to go to something else. I got other things to worry about. At the time, I was just buying a building, and rehabbing a building. I didn't have any emotional attachment to this house. And really, at that point, if it would have ended there, it would have been grits and gravy and all good, because somebody else paid on that mortgage for a period of about 7 years. I only picked up maybe 5 payments in the entire 7 years that I had owned it, plus the $5,000. And if you add all that up, that means I paid less than $6,000 out of my own pocket for that property. At the end of the day, in 1997, the insurance company cut me a check for $35,000. Do I have any concern? At that point, I'm already, if you take 6,000 divided by 35 minus 4, which means you're taking it divided by 31, I've already 6x my money. My money's already been multiplied times 6. And that was quite all right with me. That was like, I'm good with it. So guess what I did to the property? Nothing. I put him out. I locked the doors and did nothing. Used the money for whatever I chose to use it for. It didn't have a mortgage. The only thing it had was taxes. The insurance company canceled me right after I filed that claim, so I didn't care about that either. I was like, it's brick. It hasn't burnt down yet. It probably won't burn down for another 100 years, so I'm not going to worry about it. And I let that property sit until 2005, almost 9 years. The only thing that I got out of the property in that 9-year period was a little bit of rent on the garage, because I had people, renting the garage from me, but I wasn't about to deal with the house. I already knew what I was working with. So that, it could have ended there. It really could have ended there. But as stories go, there's more to the story. In 2005, this is what happened. The county decided that they needed to collect their money. They started getting very aggressive, because I also did not pay the taxes for a period of about 7 years. I didn't care. They could have it as far as I was concerned. I did not pay the taxes, and I came up on a tax bill that was right around $7,000 on this property. And I needed to figure out whether or not I was just going to deed it over to them and let them take it, or if I was going to sell it to an investor. By the time we got around to 2005, we noticed that things were changing in the neighborhood. Children's Hospital actually started building. Streets were changing. They were buying up stuff. And investors were all over the place trying to figure out how they could take advantage of what was about to happen in that zone. Parsons Avenue, it was slated to be redeveloped. And it was just all kinds of things. And we were still, like I said, the location 2 miles from downtown at best. It's walking distance from downtown. So here's what went down. I decided that what I would do is go ahead and try to sell the property. I took it to some investors and asked them what they would give me for it. And they were all talking $15,000, $20,000. Now, I knew good and well that the property was worth, even in its worst condition, being brick with a garage and a double lot, I knew it was worth at least 35. And I was like, if y'all gonna give me 15 or 16 or 17, try to cut my value in half, then I might as well rehab it myself. I'm just gonna keep it myself and figure out a way to get these taxes paid, and we're just gonna make it happen like that. So believe it or not, I did work it out. Actually, I had a friend, another investor friend, who was looking to find an investment project that he could rehab. He had cash. He was planning on doing this work on a property that he wanted me to find for him. And instead of having him do that, what I told him is that I already had a project for him and we could work together. And we had my property appraised. It appraised for $35,000, as we knew it would. So we started out this whole scenario with me owning $35,000 worth of the property and him owning zero. Now, by the time we got to 60 days in this project, he had put $10,000 in it and I had put nothing, but we had a property that was steadily improving. So by the time we got to that, 60 days later, it was, I own $35,000, we got $45,000 in it, and he owns 10. So that's like, that's like a 2/3, 1/3 ratio, something like that. Actually, he owned about 25% of the property at that point because he had put up $10,000 worth of cash. 90 days later, he had put up about $20,000 into the property. And now we are, he owns better than 1/3 and I own about 2/3. It's something like that. So it began to get a little uneven. Actually, he was about 35%. And when I saw that, I decided that I wasn't going to really let him take control and get, the most, get the highest percentage. And I dropped myself $13,000 to increase my percentage. At the end of the day, the whole process took about 120 days to renovate this property and get it ready. And we took the value, we had it appraised after we completed the work. And we had it appraised, and it went from $35,000 to $115,000 in 4 months. We actually invested a total of, I want to say, 35 in it. So we had $65,000 in it all total. Well, 30, he put 20, I put 13, so $33,000 in it about. And at the end of the day, we took something that we put 33,000 in. We had an initial value of 35. That means you got 68 total in this property, and we turned it into 115,000. One of the ways you can make deals with investors is to turn their money around very quickly. If we would have waited and actually sold the property, which was an option for him, I gave him the option of waiting until I sold it. I was willing to sell it if I could get $115,000 out of it. That's what it appraised for. That's the only number we were going to sell it for. And I told him at the time, it may take some time because this is an area where it's just now up and coming and not everybody sees the value. So we got to wait. And it was taking 90 to 120 days to sell stuff. He decided, I also gave him the option, and which is the option that he chose, that because it didn't have any liens on it and there was no encumbrances, that if he wanted, I could borrow. And if I borrowed the money, then I would buy him out, he would take his money, and I would keep the property. And that's exactly what he chose because he didn't want to wait the 120 days and maybe get the money or maybe not get the money. So what we ultimately did was we borrowed at a ratio of 70%. Total cash, $80,000. And at that point, we were working with his investment and my investment, and we took our percentage share. At the end of the day, for him, what it meant was he invested $20,000 and we returned him nearly 30. It was like $29,000 and some change in 4 months. So that meant he was getting a substantial return on his money. And Aaron, I think I gave you the numbers. Let me see what those numbers were. He got a substantial return on his money in just a very short period of time. It was a 40% return on his money for investing that 20,000. He got $29,000 back, returned 140% in 4 months. If that was an annualized return, let's just say that we could do that over a year, like do it 3 or 4 times in a year, he'd have just killed the whole game. It would just been
the number is broken down on line 8.
I see it. I see the numbers broken down on line 8. I see it, but I think I pretty much covered it though. On my end, that could have been the end of the story. I could have just rented it out, and it would have been happily ever after. It would have been just that's it. But instead, of course, there's more to the story, and it's about value. I couldn't see myself at that point, seeing the progress that was going on in the neighborhood. I couldn't see myself giving the property up, and I decided to rent it. Now that was good for a while. I had some good tenants, they paid, but eventually a lot of the tenants would just default and not pay, and I would have to redo the property. I was redoing it, probably every 3 years, and that was kind of getting on my nerves. Most recently, I had a tenant in there who stayed in the property about a year. And when I got the property back, she had just torn it up to such a degree that it caused me a whole lot of drama. And I decided that instead of taking it this route, now it's going Airbnb, because the area, if you haven't paid attention, that area has completely transitioned. It's about location. It's about projecting the value. I knew at some point, that not only was Children's Hospital developing all up and down the corridor of Livingston Avenue, south, going south into some of these other neighborhoods, some of these older neighborhoods, but I also knew it's just a hand, skip, and a jump from downtown Columbus, and that all of the lots that surround Parsons and Livingston would be picked up. And now we have things like the Crest. We have a new, we have CVS there. We have all, big ticket retail establishing in that zone. We have, the Scrambler Marie's is there. We have a workout facility. I think I might have mentioned it. It's completely changed. As a matter of fact, if you get on Parsons and Livingston and just, close your eyes and turn around once, you will get lost because it's that different. Now we have bikes, sitting right there in the zone. We have the Ronald McDonald House on the corner of 17th and Livingston. We have completely different look, completely different feel. And that property today is probably worth $170,000 in its current condition. But instead, the highest and best value is no longer renting it, not renting it on a continuous basis. The highest and best value is in converting it to an Airbnb, because all the doctors, all the nurses, all the visiting people who need housing in the area would much rather be able to walk to the hospital than to have to go downtown and pay extraordinary rates for hotels. So that is where it's going. So guys, hopefully you see how projecting out and using your imagination and envisioning what an area could be, looking at the location, getting creative with the opportunities, working through just what could happen, and just instinctively moving how you could maybe create some significant value with by looking at my case study. You take a look at it, because this is a real story. It's happening now. As a matter of fact, the Airbnb will be opening in the next 3 weeks. We're going to launch it. If it's something you want to come and take a look at, definitely inbox me. If you're in Columbus, inbox me. If you're interested in even renting the space, inbox me, let me know, and I will be glad to walk you through it. It's going to be very cute. It's going to be very chic. It's going to be very comfortable. It will also be a shared office space, because there are rooms on the top portion of it. And the garage, well, we haven't figured out what we're going to do with that, but there's so much opportunity that if you, even in your own creative self, think about it and think about something you might want to do with it, if the space is going to be available. So hopefully that's it. I mean, I just want to, we're going to do these case studies from time to time. It's never ending. I've got them for 24 years, so it's going to take a long time to run out of them. Hopefully I've given you some value today. Like I said, that property is still my property. As a matter of fact, the gentleman who's working on it right now, he's waiting on me right now so I can give him some stuff to finish it up. And I'm just really excited about the opportunities. There's so much opportunity in real estate, so much opportunity. If you're an agent out there and you want to learn some of this, I am the broker and the owner of Take a Look Real Estate Brokers, and we are always looking for new talent, If you inbox me, I will send you our send out for you, just giving you information about how the brokerage operates. I'm so excited. I'm here to bring exceptional value, and I hope, I'm about to give it to him. Okay. I got Aaron here checking me, but hope to bring exceptional value. Now, Aaron, you just heard me talk through it with everybody here on Facebook Live. Was there anything else that I need to tell them about this property, because I already went through it with you? So is there anything else I need to?
I think you hit on all the points. Mm-hmm. You broke it down very well. You heard the numbers and things like that. Mm-hmm. Just let them know that those kind of things exist. In real estate, you can find investment properties that you can find cost-effective investment properties. I don't know if they can hear me. But,
yeah, they can definitely hear you. Yeah,
they can find the right professional who understands the industry. And then if there's any agents who, would like to work with investors, that kind of thing, or just agents in general who, in any brokerage who want to improve on what they do, let them know about the upcoming group and the upcoming podcast. We'll be ready to let people in the group probably by next Monday.
Go ahead and you tell them about it, because they can hear you. So guys, listen to Aaron for a second. Yeah, they can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay. So we have a really special group that Theresa's developing called the Platinum Success. It's called Platinum Success, and it's a community for real estate professionals where Theresa provides free training, free information, videos. There's an upcoming podcast that is going to be ready to go live on Monday, and you'll get one every single Monday. There'll be all kind of, great information. It's a community of real estate professionals. And so if you'd like a little more information about that, please send her an inbox message. But by next Monday, the group should be, ready for, people to join that group, and just get ready for a lot of great information. Join the YouTube page, subscribe to the YouTube page, and take a look, Real Estate Brokers on YouTube. There's playlists on there. There's the Ask Theresa replays are on there as well, case studies, and then the podcast will also load there as well. You'll also be able to get the podcast on iTunes. You'll be able to get it on Spreaker. You'll be able to get it on YouTube, and you'll also be able to get it on SoundCloud.
Wonderful, wonderful. So yes, guys, so we are in it. We are in it to really support the community, the real estate community at large. We are innovating. We're doing what we need to do to really add value from our perspective. We know that there are other people adding value out there just like we are. We want to plug in. Now we just checked the numbers last week. There's almost 8,500 real estate agents in Columbus. And I can remember a time where the numbers went all the way down to about 3,500. So that's a lot of people. And it means that training is necessary, because you don't really learn this business by going to real estate school. You learn the technicalities and how to pass a test. But remember that the actuality of it is very, very different. So we want to be out there as a resource for the community. We are community-minded folks, mission-driven, and just improving the lifestyle of the people that we come in contact with. So it doesn't matter. You could be in Columbus or you can be in Alaska. It doesn't really matter. We're here for you, and we want to make sure that we bring you information that's valuable. You can use it anywhere. So with that, Aaron's already given you how to get in contact.
We'll give you the phone number and your email as well.
You said what now?
You want to give your phone number and email.
Okay. All right. So yeah, my phone number, if you want to get in touch with me, and the best thing to do is to text me, because sometimes these phones are ringing off the hook and it's very difficult for me to answer every single call. But the phone number is 614-778-8503. That is how you reach me. You can text me. That is my direct cell number. And or if you want to email me, you can email me at my personal email, barron.theresa, and Theresa is spelled T-H-E-R-E-S-A. So let's spell it again, BARRON.Theresa, T-H-E-R-E-S-A @gmail.com. We are so excited. we got all kind of stuff going on, y'all. All kind of stuff. And I've got, I want to at some point feature some of the other phenomenal business people that I just, in doing these things and reaching out, that I'm coming in contact with. So you look forward to that. And if you have something of value you want to say, come on back through. If you're watching the rebroadcast, it's all good. Today is August 1st, 2018. And with that, I am going to sign off. Oops, let me do this. I'm going to sign off and hopefully see you guys same place, same time next week. And by the way, I'll be on my anniversary cruise next week, so it will be a recorded version of what we're doing today. Take care, y'all. Have a wonderful day.